Hello and welcome to World Talks. My name is Sasha Farbach. Now, in today's shifting energy landscape, Poland finds itself at the crossroads of two transformative projects, one on the Baltic Sea and the other driven by nuclear ambition. Now, as the country pushes forward with its second LNG terminal and courts global nuclear giants for a new power plant, questions of technology, strategy and sovereignty are front and center. To help us make sense of it all, we're joined now by Wacław Gudowski, Senior Energy Technology Advisor, Orlen Synthos Green Energy. Thank you so much for joining us here in the studio.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the invitation.
So it's all about energy, finding the right nuclear partner. Now, this is the question that I want to start with. If we're looking at the kind of criteria that Poland needs, where is that? Is that advanced technology? Is that financing? What is the matter here in terms of finding the right fit?
Well, the main problem is that the Polish energy system requires very, very fast modernization. It is not mainly about decarbonization. It is about to have new technology in our energy system. And Poland has chosen, by the way, the dual track, fortunately dual track. We have now ongoing investments in so-called big atom, as we call it, but also the program of small modular reactors is very, very, very active and very dynamic. And actually this is a hope for Poland because, you know, for almost half of the century, the big atom was a monopoly of the state. And we used to say that, you know, the state mills, they mill a little bit slower than the private mills. So if one wants to get dynamically onto this track, one has to make a lot of fast decisions. When you say about partners, well, the problem is that there are not that many technological choices. You know, nuclear had about 25 years of the very dark period. You know, no new orders, no new reactors. And then when we finally tried to get, Fukushima happened. And you know, strangely enough, nuclear technology is living with the milestones of the accident, which is a wrong approach. One should always look at the benefits versus the risks. So you know, if we do something with a very huge benefit and a very small risk, it's worth to do. So why it is so difficult to choose the partner? As I said, not that many choices. It's not like with cars. And if you look at the market of the big atom, you know, on the market you have really 4 or 5 vendors. You have Westinghouse, you have Koreans, you have EDF, and then you have another technology which is called boiling water reactor. Actually, GE Hitachi was a big vendor of this, but they decided about 15 years ago, long time before all this renaissance of nuclear, they decided to go to the smaller modular units. So they were really pioneers, but they left the market of the big atom. And in addition, there was for a long time, you know, kind of the problems between Korean and Westinghouse concerning AP 1400, as it's called, when Westinghouse claimed, because finally they agreed, that some of the IPR were not properly managed. But the price of this agreement was actually that Korean are not, I'm very carefully using the words, are not that active on the European market. And we have another pattern from France. EDF was very, very, you know, active in many European countries. We can build for you 1 reactor, 2, 5, 6, but suddenly French government, actually a few weeks ago, decided, EDF, we need you here in France. We need to modernize our nuclear fleet. You don't have capacity to go to 5 other countries. So you will get a very, very, I would say, good economical conditions, assuming that you do most of the job in France. Another country which actually made very fantastic decision is Sweden, which decided to create an economical system with about 75% of the very, very advantageous loans to attract not only the state big stakeholders, but also the private investment. And this is the way to go. You know, for many, many years, I was going on many conferences. So whenever there was a question about technicalities, although that's the problem, engineers will solve it. Whenever there's a question, how we will fund it? Oh my God, this is so difficult. No, it is not. It is a political will and political determination which actually creates the right environment for the fast development of this technology. And Poland is a new embarking country.
You're saying it's about political will. You said that we have to outweigh the risks. There's a lot of opportunities as well. I'm curious.
Benefits.
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 But as well, we have to look at the risks as well. But benefits too.
Yes.
I know that's also what you've said. But you've also now painted this picture. What I'm hearing from you is that with the French, with EDF, that limits their capacity as a partner. If we're looking also at...
They limit their offer, and they try to increase capacity inside of the country.
But nevertheless, you've said Westinghouse was first the only company you mentioned without saying where they're from. That's
big
from North
atom,
America.
yes.
That's the big nuclear one. So if we're looking at these comparisons, you said, as far as I heard, the South Koreans, that's very much about technology, about innovation. So if we're looking at these different types of offers, which one then, in your mind as an expert, would be the perfect partner? Can it be two? It can only really be one. And the offers now currently is Canada, South Korea, France, and the United States.
I will answer you with the first question. Why do you ask only about the big atom? Solution for Poland is a big atom and the small modular reactors. So for the small modular reactors, actually, the situation is very simple, because OSG decided long time before the Renaissance to go in the partnership with GE Hitachi with the reactor which is called BWRX-300, which fits perfectly to the modernization of the aging energy units. For the big atom, the decision was taken actually a long time before also to go with Westinghouse without really any, I would say, market conditions negotiations, I would say. There's a political choice. But we are where we are, and Poland need very much both big atom and the small atom. In about 10, 15 years from now, if we don't move very dynamically, we will have the gap of the power in our energy system on about 16 gigawatt of the sources which we can control, which are not depending on the weather. So it means neither wind or sol. It is so-called base load in the engineering terms. So we will need about 16 gigawatt. It is half of the today's capacity.
Mr. Gudowski, you're talking about also energy diversity, and I want to get on that for my next question as well, and that's the key point here. LNG terminal, there's a new one planned in the Baltic Sea, in Gdańsk. So this is significant for Poland. Tell us a bit about the specifics of this terminal and what that means for Poland's energy security.
You know, you have two aspects. If you ask the engineers, the power engineers who likes very much to build new units, actually LNG is a very good solution. Politically, we want to be independent from Russia, so the political question is very simple, we need it. But if you look from the point of view, you said energy security. But look, we are getting more and more dependent on the Baltic Sea in the delivery of the energy sources. You know, today, as analysts say, ask the military, we are dependent on the Baltic Sea on 48%. So if Baltic Sea is blocked, we are losing half of our energy sources. With the new LNG terminal, with the new big atom, we will become 70% dependent of the. So if Baltic Sea is of one or war, whatever, sabotage, we are losing 70% of our capacity. And the country, for the normal operation, even in the critical situation, we need about 40 to 45% of the nominal power supply. So it's a very, very serious. And then there is a third aspect, which not many people...
So I suppose then, if we try and addressing that, that's the next question. The solution is more diversification, is potentially what?
Small modular reactors is one of the solutions. And actually what I'm very, very happy that many security and safety analysts says, yes, nuclear, in spite of, being some questions, so if you really destroy a nuclear power plant, what would be the consequences? Actually, many analysts agreed now that actually nuclear units are stabilizing conditions in the crisis situation because no stakeholders, I would say, would ever attack a nuclear site. The terrorist is a different story.
You mentioned, because I'm interested here, because you mentioned dependency,
Yes.
and you're saying that that would very much hemorrhage a certain high percentage of energy costs, if let's say if everything's in the Baltic Sea with LNG. How would you respond to perhaps the idea that we are moving in Poland we're removing that dependency on Russian gas and moving it very much to the United States? How do you respond to that?
I would say we are moving into dependency on the Baltic Sea. Whatever we put there, from which direction, we will still. This is the most sensitive. This is our, I would say, Achilles
heel.
Yes, heel. So that's a very serious problem. But I want to come back also to this LNG terminal. A lot of initiatives in the energy sector were in the past driven by the climate concerns. I have to say very clearly, from the point of view of the climate, LNG is not a good solution. It can be a temporary solution, but it is not a good solution because the impact, mainly on the leaks of the methane, is much bigger on the climate than. So if our driving force is a climate, LNG is not a good solution. So don't be hypocrites. Either security, safety, temporary solution, this is very important. People want to have price also. But climate, if our driver should be a climate, LNG is not a good solution. Whatever we say, we are also, getting more information that the shale gas exploitation increases uncontrollable emissions of the methane to the atmosphere. So there is something really to look after, and an appeal also to the decision makers. The big difference is to realize the difference between the lobbyist and the expert. Some of the decision makers actually have no really sharp division between what is lobbying and what is expertise.
So it does sound very much that in its best form, Poland is best served by diversifying and also keeping, in one of the things you've said, in mind, not just reliance on one energy source, and looking closer at nuclear, which Poland is doing at the moment. But we'll have to look at how that's going another time. But I really appreciate all your insights today. Thanks for coming in. That was Wacław Gudowski from Orlen Systems. Thank you. And thank you for watching. That concludes World Talks, but stay tuned right here on TVP World for more news and commentary. Goodbye.